of the stuff we discussed
Thank you.
wrong, you'll just jump in, I'm sure. So,
Just try to make sure we cover it all before the night's over.
yeah, one way or the other, we got to cover it all. So,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, there's a bunch of items that John needs to go over. Okay, so it's 6 o'clock. As chair of the Northwood Board as chair of the Northwood Select Board, and due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to executive order 2020-04, we're authorized to meet electronically. We're utilizing Zoom for this meeting. In the public notice, we said that you'll go to YouTube Live to watch the meeting. If anybody does have problems with access through YouTube, Susan can help you at 607-322-6232. If the board itself has trouble with the Zoom application and we cannot talk contemporaneously and conduct our business, the meeting will automatically adjourn. There might not be a vote, especially since we might not be able to talk or confer. So at this point, I'm going to do a roll call vote, and we'll do all votes via roll call. Matt.
Sorry, present.
Beth.
Here.
Tim.
Here. I don't think
And
Matt got enough sleep this afternoon.
I'm sorry?
I don't think Matt got enough sleep this afternoon.
Oh.
He looks a little out of it tonight.
And Hal's here. Okay, so thank you. That was the roll call. Let's all rise and face the nearest flag and pledge allegiance.
I'm here too. You forgot me.
You forgot Pam. Cal.
Oh, I have you written, Pam, I have you written down. Can you say here, please?
Here, please.
She's our flag girl.
I don't know how I did that. I wrote your name down and put a check mark. Oh, jeez. Sorry, Pam.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, well, I think that pretty much sums up my state of mind. I just got off another board meeting that was kind of tedious. And I'll need all the help I can getting through this meeting. So please don't hesitate to speak up. Don't hesitate to bring stuff to my attention. We need to do this right. So just please help me out. At this point, I'd like to move on to Citizens Forum. Matt, I believe we have at least two letters to be read. Would you like to read them, please?
Certainly. The first is from Ginger Dole. I will skip the part where she requests the letter be read since we're reading the letter. She says, I see use of COVID funds for center school is back on the agenda. I again raise my concerns. The building is not being used at this time, so how can you justify using COVID money for renovations? In March, the town voted no to spending any money at this time to renovate this building. To attempt to justify spending COVID money for renovations to a building not in use and one which the voters rejected is, in my mind, a misuse of funds. I noted over the weekend that a contractor was working at Town Hall, so I stopped in to look through the front doors. My and others' understanding was that this wall would be placed further into the foyer area and would still allow access to the lower conference room. Instead, it has been erected in the archway before you get into the foyer. There are two major problems with this location. First, the bulletin board is no longer accessible to the public, nor is the assessing computer. Of greater importance, the town hall is no longer handicap accessible. ADA maneuvering clearance requirements state doorways must have a minimum of 48 inches once inside the doorway. You can plainly see someone in a wheelchair would not be able to enter the building and turn towards the hall. If the leg extensions were used, they couldn't even get into the building. Neither would an ambulance gurney. My final comment is again regarding opening town hall for committee/board meetings. I was informed that last week a safety facility strategy meeting was held in the hall with 12 members present. During a BOS meeting, there would be 6, perhaps 7 of you, leaving room for a few townspeople to attend. The school board has managed to have in-person meetings for over a month and allow members of the public to attend or call in and speak during opening and closing public comments. Residents are very frustrated with the current situation. Perhaps you should all take a look at the Northwood Facebook sites and see what is being said. Ginger Dole.
Thank you, Ginger.
Next is from Betsy Colburn. She says, "Good evening. I wish to offer the following comments for inclusion as part of the opening public comments for tonight's agenda of the BOS meeting 9/1/2020. 1, the agenda was not posted on your website as of 11:35 a.m. on Monday, August 31st, 2020, making it nearly impossible for citizens to offer comments prior to the 12 noon on Monday as you require. Discussion at your meeting last Tuesday, August 25th, 2020, led me to believe that the agenda would be posted on Friday prior to a meeting so that the public has access to comment. You are making it impossible for the public to comment on agenda items, which is their right as taxpayers of this town. 2, the BOS needs to immediately return to holding their meetings at the Northwood Town Hall with public access, both in person and remotely, as the Northwood School Board is currently doing successfully. Your current process precludes the public from being able to provide timely and appropriate access, which needs to change immediately. If 2 of you can attend a safety committee meeting that was held on Wednesday, August 26th, 2020 at the Northwood Town Hall with 12 people socially distanced with masks on, there is no reason to not return to Town Hall for your meetings in public. 3, a new wall was constructed this past weekend in the entrance to the Northwood Town Hall. It appears that this new wall does not meet ADA requirements for proper clearance measurements upon entering the building. It was my understanding that the wall was going to be constructed further into the entryway, front side to the basement door, and right side office door, which would give more space for wheelchair access to meet ADA requirements. The current narrow clearance makes it impossible for the public to social distance from each other when doing business at Town Hall. 4, sale of town-owned equipment. I have not been able to find any postings for sealed bids of town-owned property. The 2 trucks per town policy for selling equipment. What trucks are proposed to be sold? Where are the legal postings for sealed bids? And have any unofficial bids been received? This is another example of lack of transparency and following town policies. 5, use of the community center. Based on the continuing COVID-19 pandemic, the community center should not be open to the public for personal use. The building should be maintained under the COVID-19 guidelines for Town of Northwood official department and committee use only at this time, and be restricted to a set number of attendees with masks required only. 6, EpiPens. What is the written opinion from the attorney and also the insurance company as to the liability to the town for dispensing a drug that is not prescribed to the individual receiving it? Thank you, Betsy Colburn, taxpayer and resident.
Okay, thank you, Betsy. I appreciate the comments being very succinct, understandable, and I also appreciate the tone of the letters. They're very factual, and I just appreciate that they took the time to provide us with that information also. At this point, there have been some requests about voting and an update. Matt has been working with our moderator, Keith, as well as Savannah on the voting. I'm going to call on Matt to summarize where we stand. Keith is also online, so Matt can defer to him if he'd like to. But if you could talk about both the upcoming election next week and the thoughts on the election in November, I think everybody would appreciate that. Matt?
So I'll start and then I'll hand it over to Keith for some of the specifics, but we did go before the school board a couple of weeks ago and request use of the school gymnasium for both, mostly for the general election in November.
We're talking elementary school or Co-Brown?
Elementary school.
Okay. Just want
Yep.
okay. Yep. Thank
Yeah, good.
Asked for use of the gym for the general election was our most immediate need because St. Joseph's Hall was not available for that election. We did request use of the school for the upcoming primary as well, so we could basically, get a practice run with fewer voters. than we would expect to see in the general election. Unfortunately, that's their first day of school, so the board did not grant us permission to use the school for that day. So we will be at St. Joseph's for the primary on the 8th. We've got some what I think are really good plans in place. I'm going to let Keith get into the specifics of it, but we did ask the school board to consider a long-term swap to start scheduling all of our elections at the elementary school, as opposed to relying on a non-municipal entity to provide us space for that. So when the school board comes around to planning out their calendar for the next year, we'll certainly try to be back on their radar with a reminder of that request and a renewed request. So I did forward the facility use request form onto John. John, I don't know where if that got filled out at any point, but we're going to need to turn that around to the school just to make sure that we do have some official paperwork to make the request.
Could you send that again? I don't seem to-
Certainly. Yep. Yep.
I apparently misplaced the email or something. So if you could send it again.
Yep. Not a problem. And then Keith, I'll hand it off to you to talk about some of the specifics around the day of the election, if that's okay with you.
That sounds great. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Nice to meet some of you. I know you probably don't know me. My name is Keith McWigan. I'm going to be the moderator for the next couple of years, so you're stuck with me. This is my first time being the moderator, so I first off want to thank Mr. Kreider and Bob Young for helping me lead me through some of this stuff, and especially Savannah, who's been doing a great job helping me get started with these things. About this election, Bob Young, who was the previous moderator, did offer to be appointed as a assistant moderator, so he'll be there for the day. So that'll be great. So he can help me out as well. And then I've also appointed Judy Lodo as my deputy moderator. So if something were to happen to me, she would be the one to step in my shoes. So those are the main people that come from my side of things. So voting day plans. We've been meeting with. I've been meeting with my deputy moderator, the clerk, the assistants, and Mr. Fry and Mr. Kreider a little bit to try to figure out how we're going to do the voting for Tuesday. So our current plans, and this is based on suggestions from the state and things like that, is to have one-way traffic going through the building. So instead of having everybody enter and exit through the main doors, which has been the practice in the past, we're going to direct everybody around to the door closest to Route 4 down the hallway in the parish hall. So everybody will have an entrance there, walk through the hallway. There'll be a divider to keep them on the right side as they enter the main voting hall. When they go in there, we'll have the checkout tables as usual, the voting booths and tables, and most of that stuff's gonna be basically the same place it's been in previous years. But the difference is it's gonna be one-way traffic in. Once you go in, the voting, counting machine's gonna be in a slightly different place, and you're gonna put your ballot in there on the way out, and you're gonna leave through those, and you're gonna end up leaving through the main doors, right? So it's gonna be, the idea is to try to minimize the number of people that are interacting with each other as you go through. We will have lots of signs for this. We've ordered some signs. I'm sure maybe you've seen some of the stuff that Savannah's ordered for, entrance only, exit only, try to direct people around. The plan is to also have people outside at a table as greeters that will kind of help people go to the right place. We do have, there will be a requirement that masks have to be worn at all times inside the building. But we understand that there will be situations where people may not be willing or able to wear a mask. And for that reason, we're going to provide an alternate location for them towards the back of the building. We may have people set up either behind the window or outside underneath an easy up. It kind of will depend on the weather of the day and what we can get going there. So everybody that comes, if they're able to put on a mask, they'll get in line like regular and go through, and we'll try to get them through as quick as possible. If they're not or unable to, we will have an alternate way for them to do their voting outside. We'll have a table set up, and we'll have staff over there that will help them with their ballots. They may end up dropping their ballots into a drop box that's monitored, and then those things will be transferred at some later time into the counting machine. we do have, the state has sent us a bunch of personal protective equipment. All of that stuff right now is stacked up in the rec director's office.
Yeah.
I went through some of it today. We have lots of stuff I probably we're not going to use. I mean, we have masks, gowns, gloves, lots of sanitizer, and also a number of big plastic sheets for plastic things that will keep the ballot clerks and stuff like that away from the public, with a slot underneath for passing documents back and forth. So we'll get all that stuff set up. It will be available to all ballot clerks and any people that need to be there, which includes all of you selectmen, by the way. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but all selectmen are required to either be at the voting location for the duration of when the polls are open, which is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., or assign a pro temp to take your place. And I think this is one of the situations where you can individually assign a pro temp. So each one of you, if you're not going to be able to make it or not be there for some time, you just can assign someone and they'll come and they'll take your place for that time. So while we're there, most of the time, a lot of times the selectmen will be used as like the greeters for people coming in and stuff like that. But I think you can also be doing ballot clerk stuff or helping with the absentee ballots and stuff like that. And we'll do the assignments, the day of, when we see what kind of staff we have and what we can do there. So we are kind of in need of, I was talking to Savannah today, because this is a primary election, we need at each of the check-in stations, we need a ballot clerk that is from each party. So we need a Democrat and a Republican ballot clerk at each check-in station. Our plan, in order to reduce lines, is to have 3 different check-in stations. So we're going to need, at least 3 per shift. The shifts right now are 7 o'clock to 1 o'clock and 1 o'clock to 7 o'clock. So 5 or 6 hour shifts. From what I heard from Savannah, we don't have a whole lot of Republican ballot clerks signed up right now to volunteer. So I don't know if any of you are registered Republicans. We may have to ask you to help out in that capacity, or your pro temp too. Or if you know anybody that might be registered Republican that'd be willing to ballot clerk, please let them know and get them in touch with Savannah so that we can get them up to speed and doing this. Yeah, Hal?
Must you be registered or can you be undeclared?
I think you need to be registered.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure about that. We can have undeclared ones there too, but I think we're supposed to have a Democrat and a Republican one at each, because it's a primary. The general election will be different.
Okay.
But because it's a primary, that was my understanding of what I was reading.
Tim has a question also.
Yeah.
Mr. McGuigan, that back entrance, is that a paved entrance from the driveway in?
Yes, it is. The front entrance, kind of, yeah, the one closer to the, if you go and take a look.
You said they're coming into the end of the building, right?
Coming into the front. So like if you're looking at the doors where we usually go vote, right?
Yeah.
And you go to the right, there's like, the building extends.
Yeah, so
towards
you're gonna come down that long hallway into the lot, yeah.
Yeah.
So from the parking lot into that door, it's pavement.
It is.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yep, it is.
Oh, thank you.
We do have, if there's a problem for, someone with a disability who can't get in for whatever reason, there's always the potential of doing curbside voting where we could send out the clerk or a ballot clerk or something like that can go out and give them it ends up being an absentee ballot process. I think you usually assign an affidavit saying I can't come in, whatever, and then you can get a ballot brought to your car, fill it out there, and then we'll bring it back and put it in a ballot box for you. So it may well be that could happen with some people. And if it does, I think we're prepared for that. So, for ballot clerk training, there's going to be a ballot clerk training this Thursday at 5 p.m. in the clerk's parking lot. So if anybody, I suggest, if you can, all of you, that'd be great to come because you may be asked to step into that role, depending on what we get for the day. And the other thing I was trying to get into, the PPE that was given to us by the state, we have the cache of it in the rec director's office. All of this stuff will be used for both this election and the next election. So we need to be able to store it somewhere. Right now, the rec director's office is probably fine right now, but we will have to have that stored through November. It's not very voluminous. It'll fit in one table, so it's not a big deal, but it just needs to be kind of in a safe place. So, it's mostly, like I said, masks, gloves, there's gowns if people want to use those. I don't see anyone wanting to, but they could. There's plastic face shields. sanitizer, things like that. So we'll use what we have to for this election, save the rest for next election. Yeah, what else did I want to follow up? Oh, yes. So the other thing is that we will be doing, the state has allowed us to pre-process the absentee ballots this year because it's anticipated to be a large number of them. So our plan is Savannah's going to post this soon, I think. We're going to pre-process those this Thursday, starting at noon, I believe is what the time is, but you may have to check the posting to make sure that it's still the case. So starting at 9:30, we're going to go and do the counting of the blank ballots and organizing there and testing the voting machine, which I believe you're all welcome to come to as well. And then the pre-processing of the absentee ballots will happen whenever that's done, no earlier than noon. I think it was what we had planned. That's going to be maybe a lengthy process because I believe there's only about over 250 absentee ballots so far. And so we could use some election officials to help out with that as well. So if you're available, swing by. Right? You could be put to work.
When is that, Keith?
What's that?
When is that, please?
This Thursday.
Yeah.
So we're going to start at 9:30. We're going to count the blank ballots. We're going to test the machines, and then as soon as we're done with that, maybe a small break for lunch, and then we'll be doing the absentee ballots. So the pre-processing of the absentee ballots consists of opening up just the outer envelope, making sure that the person is on the list, making sure that the inner envelope is appropriately signed. We can make some marks in the checklist to indicate that it's an absentee ballot. However, we're not going to do anything beyond that. We're not going to open up the inner envelope, count the ballots, make any other marks on the sheet to show that they voted, because people could come in, even if they've submitted an absentee ballot, they could come in the day of and vote before we process the absentee ballots for real on the day of. So this is really just a way of alphabetizing them and stuff like that, and doing some of the work ahead of time before. And if there's any challenges or anything like that, that has to happen on Thursday when we're pre-processing. There will be no challenges to absentee ballots, no official challenges to absentee ballots after Thursday. So I think that's all I wanted to talk about. So any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And I hope to see you all. Yeah. Go ahead, Hal.
I know we talked about it a little bit. Did you give any consideration to checking off the absentee ballots with clerks other than what you have, or do we not have enough clerks to do?
I've talked to Savannah about that, and it's going to depend on what the clerks are up, how many clerks we have, what they're doing. Right.
Okay.
My thought was that we would need at least, clerks at each check-in table. We might need a couple extra clerks, or at least one, maintain the outside stuff. And then we would have greeters, and we also maybe have a runner or two that will go, be doing the outside to the ballot clerks for the registrations for people that are outside through the window or whatever. I was hoping that anyone else, for example, you guys and stuff like that, I could depend on for doing absentee ballots like throughout the day, starting no earlier than, I think we're not allowed to start until 9 or something like that.
Okay.
But maybe doing them in small batches throughout the day so that we're not in the way of other people who are voting. But
Okay. May I ask one other?
sure.
Is there consideration for people that want to sign the affidavit instead of showing their registration or their identification, and then if they want their picture taken, I assume you figured out whether they take it with or without the mask and all that kind of stuff?
It would be, I don't know. Actually, that's a good question. I'm not sure if it's with or without the mask.
Okay.
I'm assuming it's without the mask.
Yeah, so we're going to learn some new things.
We are. I was kind of hoping you would man the camera myself. Actually, I've been told you're.
I will, but mask or no mask for the OTOE.
So the mask must be properly worn inside the building, but you are, the ballot clerks will be able to ask people to take their masks off for identification purposes temporarily if they need to.
Okay.
So the camera will be the same situation.
So we'll learn.
Yeah, it's going to be, you know what? I mean, there'll probably be hiccups, right? Because this is different. We had a well-oiled machine before. We're throwing lots of different things going on now that are different.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. We'll get through it. It's just, things may not go as smoothly as always, but our priority is going to be count everyone's vote, right? And make sure that everybody's vote gets counted properly, and we'll get through it, so.
Good. Matt, did you want to say?
I just wanted to add in, so I spoke with Mr. Beliveau, who's doing the work on the front walkway there. If you were to swing by right now, you'd see that it's actually still dug up. But Paul assures me that it will be passable, with gravel being the worst case. But if it's still graveled, he was saying he'll pop a piece of plywood or something into there to make sure it's a passable entrance for us, or exit, I suppose.
Yeah,
So that'll be taken care of.
good, good. Other questions by the board for Keith? If not, Keith, I want to thank you publicly.
Just really quick, on Thursday, where? Thursday, where?
Pam, I think you're going to
Question.
take off your video.
I believe the question is, where is
Okay.
everything happening on Thursday?
Yes.
Okay, so everything is happening at the St. Joseph's Parish Hall, which is right next to the town hall, just west of it.
Not the ballot,
I'm sorry. I'm
not
sorry.
the pre-processing, right?
No. Right. I'm sorry. That's for the voting. For the stuff that's happening, the ballot counting is happening in the I think the conference room next to the clerk's office, and then the pre-processing of the absentee ballots, we're using the main meeting hall at town hall.
Okay,
least that
I
was the
can,
plan
I can
last
help
time.
you.
I'm sorry.
She can help.
I'm trying to get my
Yes.
video off. Yeah, I can help you on Thursday, but I need a 1 hour, I've got to do a module for school, but I think I can do remote on Thursday and come over and help you out. So
That'd be
I'll try
great.
to
Well-
be there.
Yeah, I mean, it's 250 ballots ish. So I mean, we'll probably just break up the work. So the more people we have, and we'll take any help that we can to get through it all, quickly. Yep, we welcome it. So whatever hours you can contribute, even if it's not all of them, we'd love to have your help there.
Great. Any other questions for Keith?
So just
Okay.
before I go, we do need the selectmen present for this one. I just want to reiterate that because I did say that before, but I think in regular elections, the selectmen all have to be there. And I think it changed this year that in the primaries they didn't, but then this year we do need the selectmen there at all times. So if you cannot make it, please let me know who you're going to assign as a pro temp. And if you can't, I may assign one for you, but we do need the staff there at that time from 7 to 7. So which stinks, but I'll be there too. We'll all get through it together.
Yeah. So Beth and then Tim.
So I won't be able to be there during the school day. So John will be there for me.
Great. I will put them to work.
And Tim, did you want to mention something?
Nope,
Nope,
all
You're
good.
all set.
Nope.
Okay, anything else for Keith? Okay, well, Keith, a big thank you.
Thank you
You
guys.
know, when I was moderator, I didn't encounter half the stuff that you're running into now. So I know it's very time consuming. I know that you're looking into a lot of details that I never had to deal with. I really appreciate, and I know the public does too, everything that you're doing. And yeah, we'll have some things we have to deal with that day, but you've done a lot of work up front. I think you've prepared us about as good as we can get. So again, thank you very much.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
You are a really good write-in pick.
Yeah. Yeah.
We will
Okay.
see.
Well, Keith, some of us will see you Thursday, and
All right.
all of us, our designees, will see you bright and early on Tuesday morning.
Excellent. See you there, guys.
Great. Thanks again.
Bye.
Matt, and thank you for your extra effort on that too, because I know that was a lot of time that you and Keith spent in additional meetings that I didn't participate in. So thank you.
It's an important thing, so happy to do it.
Yeah,
Not
thank
to
you.
mention waiting for the meeting, the board meeting, you sat.
That was a long one.
Because I was like watching it. I'm like, oh, poor Matt, another meeting.
Okay, so at this point, we're going to move on to the regular business. We don't have the minutes yet from the previous meeting, so they'll have to be approved at the following meeting. So now at this
4.5 hours. I just wanted to say that out loud.
It's a
what?
long meeting, she said.
4.5
Just keep
hours.
going. Chief.
Oh,
Just-
yeah, it was a long meeting. Yeah.
Oh, it was
We were
long.
all there. Just keep the meeting rolling. We don't need extra comments.
Yeah,
We don't want another one.
yes. So I'm moving on to the consent agenda. I'm going to ask Paul to read it off. Again, I'm just going to remind folks, a lot of these items the board has already scrutinized, reviewed, and signed off on. The consent agenda in many cases, in fact, most cases, is so that the public knows what we've approved. Paul?
Yeah, so for the consent agenda, all I had for today was accounts payable manifest for September 2nd. The batch number is 15057 for $409,000, $858.58. And I had a batch number for 15058 for $6,096.60, and that one itself was for COVID-19 expenditures.
I think we also might want to note that the bigger one included a school payment.
Yep, I believe so. Yep.
So as before, does anybody want to take any of these? Well, actually, we've already approved them, so it's just for notification, but I think for just consistency, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Oh, Paul, you forgot to mention the expenditure report.
Oh, I did.
Jeez, Mike, this is your big chance, buddy.
Yes, and to include, we do have the August expenditure report. Thank you, Hal.
I don't know if you got it posted yet on the website, but I did see a version of it today, so thank you. Okay, so we're approving all those things and just making the public aware of them. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Beth. Any discussion?
I do have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I was wondering, where are we on the COVID expenditures? I know we were going to get updates. Any idea?
Do you mean total spending, or do you mean okay?
Total spending.
Okay, I don't know that we're prepared to do that tonight, but can I make a note to put it on the agenda for the next meeting?
Yep, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, if not, then roll call vote. Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
and Hal. Oh, yeah, thank you, Pam. And Hal is yes. Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to move now on to the TA report, Town Administrator report. John has quite a few items. Some of these actually touch on or maybe address some of the agenda items below. And so if we can cover them under the TA report, fine. If there's more details that we want, we can ask for them either during his report or when they come up on the agenda. John, you want to take it over?
Yes, first item is the next scheduled meetings on the 22nd. Does the board want to meet on the 15th in 2 weeks?
What's the board's pleasure on that?
I won't be able to make it. I'm not around that.
On the
Couple days.
15th?
I think
22nd.
22nd is good.
Yeah.
I think next Tuesday will.
With the voting and everything, and
Yeah,
So skip the 15th and the next one's the 22nd.
yeah, and that's our regularly scheduled date, correct?
Right, that's the original schedule. date.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I just wanted to ask. The second one is I have a number of names of people who have put in regarding the 250th. I would like to read those. It is Vina Dow, Sandra Prioli, Deborah Holmes, and Taryn Bassett. I have 4 names so far.
So what's the board's pleasure on that? Do we want to keep the posting open for another month, or do we want to encourage these folks that we have already interested to meet and start their discussions? What do you suggest?
I think we can still keep it open for a little bit longer.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
It's 3 years from now. I mean, I'm not saying forever, but another month or so.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I guess if it's 3 years away, another week won't kill us, will it, or 2 weeks?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
next item.
How about we leave it up until the next meeting and then maybe we can ask them to start getting together at that point.
Okay.
Okay.
Next item, I submitted Scott Lacrosse, the building inspector's name for deputy health officer. We have not heard back yet, but that process has been started. I believe the board still is going to have to address the health officer, but later in the agenda, we're looking at the job description. So we probably ought to get the job description and then pursue getting a health officer. We also ought to set some salary for the health officer for that appointment. The next thing has to do with, there had been questions about the dewatering plan. The permit had been granted for the bridge on Bow Lake Road. The dewatering plan has been approved. It's not a permit. It was just approved as part of the permit, but they had to give the details. They've given the details and DES has signed off on that one. So that is now a go. The next item has to do with an audit. The town has to conduct an audit whenever it changes tax collectors. That's a state law. So Hal and I today signed with Plosick and Sanderson to proceed with an audit. Part of that audit also involves recommitting what is left on all of the taxes so that the deputy or the new tax collector, whichever the situation is, now is responsible in place of Savannah, who is leaving on September 10th. So the audit needs to be done to determine exactly what that amount is. And it's a very limited audit to basically just look at the tax collection issue. I didn't know if there were any questions on that, but I just wanted to bring people up to speed on it.
So John, might have to be done again then after the elections, right?
Yeah, it would definitely have, well, it depends.
Depending on
If next March you have a different tax collector, or if the board, the deputy is going to step up on the 11th. That's the way the law works. If the board appoints her as, so she's going to be the one to whom it's committed, assuming the board doesn't appoint somebody tonight, which would surprise all of us.
The agenda.
So at this point, it's going to be committed to Marissa, and depending upon what action is taken, assuming she remains in charge of tax until town meeting, it would not have to be done. And if she's elected then in March, again, it doesn't have to be done. It only has to be done when there's a change in the person who is the tax collector.
Thank you.
Well, you'll be here in March anyway, John, so you'll keep that in your notebook for us.
Whoa.
We're not getting ready yet, quite yet.
If you and MRI do your job, I will not be here.
Okay. Yeah.
Next item has to do with making people aware that we do have some per diem employees. And basically, we've had 2 employees leave, and we have a third that's leaving that have agreed to continue doing per diem work. And I just wanted the public to know, so that Catherine Davis has been doing all our COVID work, that Lisa has been helping with the transition for both Susan and for Paul. And Savannah has offered to continue to help some after she leaves. So if, say, for example, the budget committee was looking, there's not a clean break for the 3 of them, because they do continue to be paid on an hourly basis for the work they actually do. And I think for Catherine and for Lisa, it's been, just a handful of hours every 2 weeks that they've done, but it certainly has really helped. Catherine's work has more than paid for the time she's put in. And as you saw, there was a 9,000 one today. There's going to be a much bigger one before September 15th. That's going to be in the tens of thousands. So that's looking really good. Anything else on that? Next item I want to bring up is the library HVAC system. So in your packet, the 3 companies that submitted proposals, They have been reviewed. And because one of the companies, Lockhart, is related to Chris, I wanted to get a second opinion as to which way to go. So I had Scott LaCroix also evaluate the various proposals. Both of them agree you do not want to go with the low end. They believe that you want to go higher than that. Scott believes that you should go with Key on the $16,000 quote. He feels they're a really good company that has putting in a high quality product. You want this to last a long time. So his recommendation is you go with Key. Scott recommends you go with Lockhart.
Oh, wait, hold on a second. Do you have that right? You said Scott twice.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Chris recommends you go with Lockhart. And that's because that one there is, he believes is a quality unit and the price is about $4,000 less than Key. So it comes down to how do you balance those two? I think both of them agreed that you did not want to go with the low end on the equipment that LeBlanc was bidding. I think they referred to it as like Home Depot as far as that goes. But for efficiency, there's significantly higher efficiency on the projects being bid by Lockhart and the one by Key. Key also proposed a $22,000 option that while there are some things to be said for it, neither recommended it. So it comes down to do you want to go with the lock, according to their two recommendations, one recommended Lockhart at 12,600 and the other recommending Key at 16,686.95.
So a spread of about $4,000 on an average of about 25% more.
Key is closer to 30. I would call it 30%.
30%.
Yes.
Yeah, 30% delta.
There is a, do you think the additional perceived quality of materials going in and the equipment being bid is worth the difference in price? So that's where we're at as far as the recommendation for the board to consider.
Okay, and I guess we did get a note from Chris indicating that he believes the quality is good and that any relationships he had wasn't influenced by his decision to choose those. Is that
Right.
correct?
Right. He was indicating, making us aware of the relationship and indicating that he felt the Granby, which is the furnace that was being bid by Lockhart, is 96.7% efficient, and that was significantly better than what the lowest bid was, the ones that were lower than him. And that's why he recommended you go with that one, and it was 4,000 cheaper. Scott, looking at what he perceived, he's seen Key put in products before and thought they did a good job and felt that the brand names that they were bidding were sufficiently better, so that's why he recommended paying the extra $4,000 to go that way. But it really comes down to the board weighing those two. Just be aware, neither one is a low bid, but when it comes to something you're going to want to use for 30 years and there's an efficiency difference, I think you need to go with one of these two higher efficiency units.
Okay, so I'm going to open it up for discussion and then we'll look for a motion, but let's discuss it a little bit first. Tim, how do you feel?
When it came to, just backing up a couple seconds, when it came to paving, the trustees got involved and picked the person they wanted to pave. So is this the trustee matter? Are we deciding, or, I mean, we had R&D paving all set up because they were doing the town-wide paving and all of a sudden they wanted Manchester paving. So we're deciding on what we're going to do, or is it up to, we're recommending something to the trustees, or how?
I thought the trustees gave us their recommendation.
I don't remember seeing that. John, can you speak to that?
I can't speak to it. If they did, I don't remember right now what it was.
I- My understanding is they defer to us on this type of stuff.
Ask your wife.
Pardon?
Go ask your wife.
Actually, she's not here right now, but I'm sure if she had an opinion, I'd know it by now. Sorry.
I mean, I would prefer to go with Key just so we can't say it. No one says that we picked someone's relative or.
Okay, and you're comfortable doing that, Beth, knowing that it's almost a third more?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Matt, do you want to weigh in or Pam, one of the two?
Yeah. So I totally hear the concern with opening ourselves up to an argument of nepotism or whatever, but I think at this point the cost savings are going to outweigh that for me. I think we need to go with the lower of those two, just because it's going to be things are tight. So that's generally where I fall.
Okay, and Pam, what about you? How do you feel? Do you want to weigh in before we have a motion?
Yeah, I do. Okay. I'm looking at the Lockhart at 12,650.
Mhm.
And I like that bid. I also like, yes, it's local, but that's local work, local, and I kind of like the idea of that. Not to say that Key doesn't hire local employees, but we just know that this is an area company, and I like supporting area business. Don't know them, not related to them, but I kind of like that 12.6. Although the shinier $16,000 one that Scott recommends is also, I could go either one of those two.
Okay, Beth, just to clarify, you wouldn't be necessarily, well, I guess you can show by your vote, but your primary consideration for your recommendation was because of a potential conflict that you wanted to go with the higher number. Is that the main reason, or were there some technical aspects of that proposal that you also liked?
I have other reasons.
Okay. Okay. So I guess we're at the point where we need a motion one way or the other. I guess I heard 3 indicating probably leaning towards LeBlanc.
No.
Oh,
Lockhart.
Lockhart. Sorry. Lockhart.
No.
So I'll entertain a motion to have them do the work, and then we'll, if we get a second, we'll open it up for a final discussion and a vote. Do I have that motion?
Point of order. Point of
Point of order.
order.
From Pam.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Pam.
Point of order. Yeah, you need to open it up to whomever makes a motion for whichever company they prefer. You as chairman can't make, ask for a motion favoring one.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, I
just
understand what you're
open up for
saying. Okay.
motions to see who makes.
Okay. So, okay.
That way that if Beth was to make a motion, we would need to consider that, without just going
Without
towards a
prejudice.
quote
Yep.
majority. So
Got
it would
it.
be fairer that way.
Yeah, sure. So I'll open it up for a motion.
I make a motion to go with Key under Scott LaCroix's recommendation.
Okay. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion. Okay. Hearing none. Roll call vote.
But so wait, Mr. Chairman, before we
Sorry.
just real quick. So
Yeah, wait.
So whereas Beth seems to have some concerns that wouldn't, I'm guessing they either are inappropriate or don't belong in a public forum.
I would like to hear them before we vote, like you, right, Matt? Right.
Is it potential? Yeah. Can we possibly table this?
So after non-public?
Yeah.
I don't have a problem
And
with
then
that.
come back.
do we want to table it, but still take it up tonight?
I,
That's what I'm thinking. I'm seeing a lot of
I
head
think
nods.
that would be preferable.
Okay, then we'll table it for now. John, let's
Yeah.
just make a note that we circle back to it after the non-public.
Yep.
Okay, I think that was good. And Pam, appreciate your comment on leading the board there. Thank you.
You can't
Okay.
do that.
Um, the-
Sorry.
the next-
No, I understand. I was just trying to move things along and I got ahead of myself.
The next one has to do with the election chaos grant. It has been discussed. We will, we want to make sure that we have in the record an authorization to apply and for Hal to sign it. So I would like that motion, and it's for a total of 12,000. Find the right number here. $12,766.97.
So this is the one that Catherine sent us most recently, John?
Yes, this is to help with election.
Oh, look at this, Pam. This is really great. I
She's
love
got a
it.
new one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Let me explain what this
Okay.
is for.
Was
Because,
there- Is this
Oh.
the August 28th deadline?
yes,
So,
we signed it, we
Can we still
submitted it.
submit?
We're asking for confirmation of what we did.
thank you. What'd you do?
Hal signed it and sent it, and I sent it.
So go ahead with your explanation. Thank you.
That was good, Pam. I loved that. I really did.
Okay, so this is money that all towns in the state could apply for. It's going to be awarded on the basis of how many absentee ballots you have for the primary and the general election. And it's being distributed on a per absentee ballot basis. The formula to be determined later. So it's basically money that's allocated for help with elections. As you know, the spring COVID money that came from Congress, some of it came in a block to the state, and the governor has been distributing that for various purposes, as you know, as has been determined to be best. And this is one of the things that it's going towards. There's been other things, the Gopher grant, the CARES grant, and this is an election grant. So various ways of helping towns and other organizations, but you know, from a municipal standpoint, we've been concerned with the aid that's coming into the towns. Does that answer your question, Pam?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, so John, what's the motion you were looking for?
To confirm the application of the grant for $12,766.97 with Hal authorized to sign.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second by Beth. Further discussion? John?
One thing that will happen is on the 22nd, we'll be voting to accept and expend this money as well as the rec grant for 188,000. We couldn't get either one in the time frame that was needed, but the time frame is for newspaper publication goes away after, I think it's September 8th or 10th, something like that. So on the 22nd, we'll deal with the second half of this motion, but right now it's just to have in the record authority to apply for the grant.
Okay, is that clear to everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there any further discussion then? Okay, hearing none. Beth,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
and Hal is yes. Thank you, John. What else?
Okay. I just wanted to comment on 2 or 3 things that came out in the letters that were read under general comment. My understanding, and the board can correct me, is that on the EpiPens, we're going to leave it that the individuals who work there will need to have a prescription and have it filled and have their own EpiPen, and we're not going to try to provide one for use with the public. That's my understanding of where we're at. I have not pursued questions with lawyers and insurance and everything else with it. I do think that there is an issue there. And the best way to handle it, if staff needs assistance, we could consider assisting staff if they don't have insurance, because I do think it is a workplace safety issue. But at this point, my understanding, unless the board corrects me, is that the EpiPen issue is going to be dealt with a case-by-case basis of the employees and their doctor.
So that was not my recollection. My recollection is that we left it that the chief would continue to do some legwork on what it would take to have one on site that was the property of the town. At the end of the day, my assumption is that he's probably going to come back with something like a recommendation that's the route we need to go. But I believe we just left it in the chief's hands at the end of our last meeting.
Okay, if that's what other people recollect, that's what I'll do. I'll put it back in the chief's hand, and that's where we'll go with the EpiPens. But we don't plan to do anything until I come back to the board with a recommendation.
Yeah, we left it there. Mark was doing some investigation work and report back to us. So, yep, I'm with Matt.
Okay, so, but as
Oh,
far
hold on a
as,
second. Let's just make sure. So it's Mark's, the ball's in Mark's court. John mentioned legal. Do we want any legal advice to associate with this to find out whether there's any HR related issues that we need to be aware of?
Well, let's wait till the 22nd and maybe Mark will have an update by then.
Right.
Is that okay? That's fine.
and here. in
I was just trying to say, do we want to preemptively do anything? If we want to wait, that's fine.
Wait. Yeah, and in another month, it won't be an issue until spring. The
Right.
plants are gonna be
We
in
did.
The
hibernation.
second frost, they're all gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but
No,
I
it's
do think we wanna-
2020. They're going nowhere.
Whoa. Okay, everybody clear then? It's the ball's in Mark's court. We wait until we hear back from him before we even consider exercising some legal counsel or anything like that.
Okay.
Okay, good.
The next item has to do with the sale of town-owned equipment. That was advertised quite a while back. My suggestion to the board is we put it out and advertise it again. The subject has come up. The market may have changed. We may have different bidders. So my suggestion is we bid it over again and just, again, put it on the website and make people aware of the bids.
Does anybody on the board object?
No, I think we did that was it May or June or
It was
something? It was a
Even
while
earlier
ago.
than
a
that,
long time. Yeah.
Really?
It's before my day here. Chris wanted to speak, but you got on mute.
Yeah, Chris, you're on mute.
Hi, guys. Sorry for my absence. I'm going to have to agree with John on this, just for the simple fact that it has been so long that it's probably best to put it out for bid again on the town website and go from there.
Okay.
So
If you could get me all the specs on the vehicles you're trying to get rid of, I'll work at getting Paul or Susan to put it up on the website.
I hate
okay,
to ask
I
this
can do that.
question.
Good. Chris, could you tell us what it is that we're bidding out?
So it's the International Dump Truck 6-wheeler, complete with a front plow, wing, and sander. And then the other is a 2006, I believe, GMC 1-ton. It's complete disarray. It's
that the one
basically
with
scrap
the-
value.
Is that the one with the muffler hanging down in the parking lot?
No,
No, that's the old 1-ton.
That's
up
a
and down.
good truck.
That's
a
the good
one,
truck.
Hal.
That's my truck.
Are you, oh, never mind.
No, what happened, Scott, I think used that truck and hit something on a construction site.
Oh,
He did. It's,
it just looked kind of funny sitting there with
it's
the,
easily fixable. So
You
yeah,
need to send him in for a urine test?
yeah, okay, okay, we're
Okay,
digressing.
so that's the
would be my
plan on that.
recommendation,
We're
unfortunately,
digressing, come on.
resubmit the bid.
Okay, if I can resume.
So,
The other comment was about the wall, and the plan is to move the bulletin board out of the area where it is. But the ADA issue, there are numerous ADA code issues in the building. One of which is that the front doors do not meet code for ADA. And the building of this wall just emphasized that we need to get the front door fixed for code. And if we get the front doors fixed, then there's no code problem. We did have the building inspector review it. He is certified. He looked over the documentation. And the main issue is those front doors need to be able to open with the push of a button. So there needs to be one of those little posts with a little blue square that can be pushed. And so I've asked him to help research. We retrofitted one of those when I was in Barrington. It just requires power, and but it will, in this case, it will also require us to change the locking mechanism a little. But if you fix the doors so that they open with that button, then you no longer have the 4-foot issue, because you've got 4 foot clear in the door. Actually, you'll have over 5 feet clear in the doorway. So that's where we're at, and we're working on that. The other thing I found out, and this is interesting history from Steve Bailey, there used to be doors in that archway. That archway used to have solid doors. And they were removed, and then there were screen doors there for a while. And those screen doors, he thinks, are still stored somewhere in the town, but I think Kip Lord has done an excellent job. It really fits the decor. It's going to hardly be noticeable when she gets done as to the paint and everything else. So yes, we are concerned with the ADA issue. It needed to be addressed whether we built this wall or not. And what needs to be done is those front doors need to be able to open automatically. So
Tim?
those are the those are the issues that I wanted to talk about there.
Hold on a second, John. Tim, I think, had a question.
I swung by there this morning at 6:30 and actually met Scott. He was just coming out and getting ready for his day, and he looked over it. And I had just one question about, the opening. Is that going to be glass or plexiglass?
Plexiglass, because it was like a 4-week wait time on the tempered glass. So they got the heavier duty plexiglass. There are 2 weights plexiglass. We thought about putting tempered glass in there. I think if it had been a simple matter of getting it, we would have, but we didn't want to delay it for a month or whatever it was going to take to get the tempered glass. And that's something that could easily be changed at a later point.
No,
But
I
it's
think
a heavy,
Nice,
it's the
though.
heavy plexiglass, not the thin stuff. Now the side lights are going to be the thin stuff.
yes. Yeah. No, I think it looked good this
It
morning.
looks really
so-
good. I saw it today. Looks nice.
Anything else on that?
Yeah, I'd just like to say I appreciate both Kit and Mark coming in on the weekends to help deal with that. After hearing things about it over the course of time, it became apparent that we wanted to move on it, and John had trouble finding folks, and I'm just really glad they stepped up. I think the whole town owes them a vote of thanks.
Tim?
So obviously I know what you're talking about, the push buttons. Everybody's got them in all the restaurants and bathrooms and stuff like that. So how does that work? Is there like a master switch inside? So like when you go home at night at 5 o'clock, we shut the power off so the doors can't open and we turn it back on in the morning? Or, I mean, that just,
Yeah,
it's a silly question, but
no, it's not.
is the raccoon going to come hit that at night and, come into the building? So obviously I know there's
I don't know the technological answer, but yes, they're not going to be able to push the button and get in at night. I don't know exactly how there's a trip limit switch of some kind probably, but I don't know just what it is or how it works. Because I mean, as I indicated, we did the same thing in Barrington when we moved into that commercial building, which is still being used as a town hall over there. And we took off the big door closer unit and put on a powered unit is basically what gets done. And it's not that complex a procedure. It's going to cost some money because those units aren't cheap, but it's something that should have been done some while ago, because excuse me, that's one of the areas that the town wasn't up to what ADA code is. And
Yeah.
it wasn't that hard to retrofit it to that code level.
Great.
The town isn't up to code because it doesn't have an elevator or Luller. That's a lot of money and there's no, an existing building, you don't have to put it in. If you were building new, you would. So,
Yeah.
but for some of the other things like these doors with the door openers, let's come into as close a compliance to ADA as we can.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks again to Kit and Mark for doing that. And it does look nice. So thank you.
The next item to think about, we have talked about town clerk needing more staff down there. And in order for that to work, there needs to be more office space. And one thing to think about, and I'm not asking for a decision tonight, but just to start thinking about, is the possibility of turning the rec office into a conference room and taking the conference room and just putting a door into the town clerk's office. So that becomes part of the town office, town clerk's office space, election, all of those things that go with that. It would have an advantage, especially in this time of COVID, even if we only did it temporarily, in keeping the public out of the entire staff area and having having two meeting rooms close to each other. You might have a little scheduling issue, but it's something to consider as we start trying to open up the building more. Do we want to keep that as a conference room, or do we want to use that to solve the space problem we got at the town clerk's office? But that discussion came up, but I'm not asking for anything right now, but certainly I'd appreciate feedback at some point. I need the analysis which Hal asked for on the role of the chairman. I still need comments from two select board members who haven't got back to me yet.
If you would, please, I'd appreciate it. If you don't want to contribute, that's fine. I understand. But
Just
I'm
let me
going
know
to,
if we're not, yeah.
yeah, let's just say that I'm going to ask John to consolidate and submit anonymously to me whatever we get before the next meeting. So if you have time and want to submit
Okay,
something, please.
it was me. I didn't do it.
There's two.
Okay. Okay. But
I wasn't
Anything
gonna
that-
say who it was.
Anything that I see a
Yeah.
problem with, I say right to you. I don't need to say it underneath, so you're doing,
Okay,
I'm all set.
okay.
Okay, but I'm trying to put together a document. I've got comments from
Yeah.
two of the board members. I'm going to add my own comments and
Mhm.
each of them separated for analysis. The final thing, I have completed what my assignment was at Tamworth. I do have more available hours, but I don't want to increase my hours here in Northwood unless the board is interested in that. So
John, I'd like to speak to that, just so we can give folks some information to make a decision on. What I have been doing is looking at the TA line in the budget. There's currently $35,000 left. There's 17 weeks left between now and the end of the year. So if we can't hire a new TA, and if John were to continue through the end of the year, we could afford to spend approximately a little bit over $2,000 a week and basically break even relative to what we had in the budget. That equates to 26 hours a week. So I believe, and I guess I'd also say when we're doing our calculations for projecting towards year end, we are assuming that we aren't taking any savings out of that line item. So I believe we have enough in the budget and consistent with the way we're doing the analysis to have John work up, let's just say in round numbers, 25 hours a week. And I know based on what I hear John say in terms of, things he'd like to catch up on and do. I personally think that would help. But that's order of magnitude what, we can afford, I believe. It is, and the part of the reason for John bringing it up is it's about double what he had originally said he would be able to provide, which was 12 to 15 hours a week. So I think we need to make a formal decision as to whether we're going to ask him to work more like 25 hours a week or not. And so that's what I'd like the board to discuss. Does anyone want to bring up a discussion point or make a motion? Go ahead, Tim.
Would that be like a couple hours every day, or you want like 3 days a week, John? I mean, how do you feel? What would you?
Yeah, what I would envision, I'd probably be in the office 3 days and the other 2 days put in a few hours from home.
Mhm. Other questions, Beth?
So right now we have him doing like the super important stuff. So what would we get for the other 5 hours that would make it worthwhile, for the taxpayers?
Well, last week.
I know
you
we
had
got a
list-
list like this.
Yeah.
Last week you had a list of 35 things for me to get to. There's still 30 on the list and we've added some tonight. So
Ah,
that's the kind of thing that you might get to.
I think there's 37 actually, but we won't.
Who's arguing?
I stopped counting after some point.
Yeah. Beth?
I mean, I'm looking forward to not that I don't like John, but to hiring somebody. So I'd like to have some of the stuff. I don't want the new hire to have 37 things day one. So it'd be nice to have some of the things scratched off that list.
Yeah. Well, and you make a good point there. When I said to Alan, do the candidates know that they might have to work 60 to 80 hours to cover all the things on John's list? He said, well, maybe we shouldn't
Don't
mention
start
that.
with that.
But yeah, if we're not going to mention it, maybe we should catch them up a little bit. And there are still some things, and I'll be honest with you, we're going to have to ask John to give us some guidance, on the assumption that maybe some of the things we might be asking might be better off left for the new TA. I mean, some of the things related to procedures and stuff, they might be on his list, but he might say, I don't think I should impose my will on, the upcoming. So some of them, I think we need to recognize we aren't going to get to, and just admit that. And some of those, are important, but they're better with the new person. But I think he's right. There's 37 items. And Tim, did you want to say more?
I would like to make a motion for, Mr. Scruton to stay on. And like I said, obviously he has in the past, if we start putting too much on his plate, push back and tell us, like we have no trouble with that. And to give us the 25 or 26 hours a week on, he picked the 3 days that he wants to be in the office and 2 days, a couple hours here and there. So I make a motion that would, fit his schedule to benefit the town of Northwood.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to have John authorized to work 25 hours a week. Obviously, it might fluctuate a little bit up and down, but that's the motion on the table. Do we have discussion?
Is this pending? We don't have midnight meetings anymore?
Well,
Well, I think
that really messed it up last week when I worked a 14-hour day and I've worked several 12 and 13 hours because it runs so late. So yeah, you'd save yourself some money if you get out quicker.
I second that.
The pressure's getting intense here.
That's the kind of thing you should put in your feedback to the chair.
I'm writing it now.
Okay, further discussion. Hearing none, we have a motion on the table, a second to have John work 25 hours a week. Tim, how do you vote?
Yes, and thank you.
Pam,
Yes, love him.
Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
and Hounds, yes. Okay, thank you, John.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
for
much.
everything you've done already for us. It's been greatly appreciated.
Well, it's been a little frustrating not being able to get to a lot of the things I see that need to be done. But it has given me some good ideas as to how to help the new TA focus on what areas, especially where you've got a major vacancy still in the finance as to what you need to fill that position with. I think it may be evolving some depending upon whom you hire, so.
Yeah, okay, so I think that's a good point. You know, we could push ahead on that, but in my discussions with John, he's saying, should we really hire somebody that's going to be a direct report to the TA, or should we wait for the new person to come in? And I think that's a good example of where it might be better to wait. So, okay. John, is there anything else on your list?
I've got some non-public items, but that's all I had.
Okay, I just want to double check my list here, just to see if I missed anything that you and I talked about. I believe not. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to move on to old business, which is COVID funds for center school. And I'd just like to say, this was on the agenda a previous week. We passed on it. We couldn't get to it. So it's now on this week. I understand what folks have said in the citizens forum, but that doesn't mean that we don't, when somebody brings up a point that they want to discuss, it doesn't mean we don't bring it up. It might be a short discussion, but we don't avoid putting this stuff on the agenda. We have that discussion in public. So up right now is COVID funds for center school. You've heard the public input. I think there are some good points there in terms of no means no. John has some additional information, or at least indicated that there might be some consideration for this, but it's really up to the board. Do we want to even discuss this any further at this point?
I think it's worth discussing.
Say that again, please, Matt.
I think it's
Question.
worth discussing.
Okay, do you want to start us off, Matt?
I have no idea.
Oops.
Sam needs to be caught up.
Oh, okay. So Matt, do you want to
I
take the lead? Yeah.
Sure. Let me start with a quick overview. So on last year's warrant, I guess that was this year's warrant. There was a question to allocate $40,000 or somewhere thereabout to make renovations to the center school building, which is the building next to town hall. It's been sitting vacant for several years now. The thought came from a recommendation from the Recreation Commission that it would be a great space for rec programming. It would allow us to run, some senior programs, some before and after school care programs, generate some revenue, and have some space, because we're very much lacking in indoor programming space in this town. I don't know if anyone's ever noticed, we can't find a place to hold an election. So one of the things that, so we got a quote for what it would cost to make those renovations, put it on the warrant, and the article failed. What I will say is that at the deliberative session, there was 0 people who spoke against it. There were several people who spoke in favor, and the vote was very close to unanimous. I think there was only maybe one person who voted against it, if I recall. So the reason that's important is when you look at some of the RSAs that talk about use of unanticipated revenue, like grant funding, it allows us to sort of, well, for lack of a better word, we can ignore that vote if we chose to. So if we wanted to use COVID money to make renovations to that building, especially as we consider what John was just talking about, where if we turn the recreation office into a conference room, turn the conference room into offices for the clerk and tax collector, well, we're now down an office for recreation when we eventually rehire a rec director. So having space for recreation staff and programming would make a lot of sense. And I think it's a fairly easy tie to basically say this is related to COVID if we're going to make changes to the offices downstairs and the conference room and everything else, as we make all these changes related to our ability to social distance in the workplace. So I get the idea that no means no, but whereas I think the no vote was entirely based on a lack of willingness to paying for this through grant revenue changes the math considerably. So that's where we stand. It may be a moot point if there's no money left in our sort of CARES Act bucket or gopher funds. So it may be a non-starter to go from, but I do think it's still worth us discussing and considering.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about what Matt said? Okay, Beth?
I mean, I just think that, it's a beautiful old building. And if we can, a little bit of money to fix it so we can reuse it. I mean, right now it's going to go and complete this repair the longer it sits. I know it's been vacant, what, 3 years now?
I think more than that at this point.
I think at least 3.
Yep.
I mean, I just hate to see the building just sit there and get worse and worse and worse. And it is a usable building. I know that when I was on the rec committee, we had looked at it. I mean, if we can use COVID money to help the town and by preserving the past, I'd like to see it happen.
Do either the other 2 select board members want to weigh in on this, Pam or Tim?
For 40, what am I getting for 40,000?
There was a list. I guess we'd have to dig it up.
I would like to see it. Yeah, I never saw it. Never heard.
I'll tell you what.
It came to the board just before. I know the rec director was she was moving, so it was. I think if she was still there during the voting time, we would have had more information.
Yep.
There was a quote that we have from, I believe, Mark Lambert. I'm not absolutely certain on the vendor, but I guess
somewhere.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Tim. I think you have a good question there. Maybe
I'd like
what
a little
we
bit more
do-
information because
Yeah.
I was talking to a few people last week. After we tabled and
Yeah.
they said no means no. That somebody told me that Mrs. Bailey, Steve's mom, Joanne, is trying to put it on the historical register. So in order to do that, you can't do any renovations. So I don't know if it's going to be a historical building.
So it's not currently on the register, to my knowledge. So, and it's a town-owned property, so we'd sort of have the
same.
The handle on that. So I actually found the quote, demo old bathroom area and storage area.
Hold on a second, let Matt finish and then Pam will get to your question.
So it was the total estimate was 36.5. That was to demo the old bathroom area and storage area, construct new accessible bathroom and small utility closet, drywall ceiling and wall in old storage area for ADA entry, remove old plaster walls in main room and re-drywall with 1/4-inch drywall, update electrical in schoolhouse and replace lighting in schoolhouse with LED lighting, install 3 new entry doors, one in the rear, which would be ADA accessible, and 2 push bar doors in the front of the building, repair shed roof in back, install interior support beams center of building, install rough and finished plumbing for bathroom, paint all new drywalled areas. So a substantial amount of work.
Well, the toilet's only a foot off the ground. That's why.
Right.
Okay,
What
so
about the
Pam
general
had-
insulation of the building?
I'm sorry, hold on a second. Tim, ask your question, then we got to get to Pam. She asked a question earlier, but you go ahead.
What about the insulation in that building? Is there any? You go do all these renovations and spend all this money, and I've been in there a few times with my nieces and nephews. Been in the school there, and it's like a wind tunnel coming through the wall. So none of the kids, stayed healthy.
I don't know, so we're working off the quote that was given to us from Lambert.
Okay, let's let Pam weigh in, please.
Just a quick question. I had heard there was a lead paint issue from a few years ago. So I'm just curious if if we're sure there's not a lead paint issue, because if there is, kids can't be there.
That'll blow
what-
40,000 quick for lead.
Did I freeze completely?
What, yeah,
Nope.
So
Yeah.
I don't know about the lead paint. Do you? I know when my kids went to preschool there, I painted the inside of the school and the outside of the school. And that was 1992 to 2002. So I know that obviously there was no lead paint then. I mean, it was a preschool. I imagine it had to be tested by the state.
I'll tell you what, it sounds to me like there's some questions of details. And I think, you know, Tim has said a few times, as have other board members, you know, let's not bring something up for a vote or decision when we don't have all the information or it's coming out very late, like tonight. So with the board's approval, I'd like to suggest that we resend out the quote and that we check into the lead paint issue and that we check into the insulation issue that Tim raised and try to have answers for that by the next meeting. And if there's other points, then we can add those too. So Beth and then John, please.
So could the building inspector test for lead paint? Isn't that like a swab kind of test?
Yeah.
There are various levels of quality of lead paint test. There's a simple one you can get at Home Depot where you just basically mark it and see what color it turns. I could see what he could do about that. I think a bigger issue is one that I've asked Catherine how much money is left in our 100,000 allocation. And we'll know better. The September 15th is the next submission date. And we'll know better how much is left. But my understanding is there may not be much money left in there. And I certainly doubt there's going to be 40,000 left. That's another number you need for the next meeting is how much is left.
Yeah, well, I think we asked for that. I have it on my list, COVID expenditures to date.
I
So
answered that.
Right. But it's the deadline is September 1st, and then you make a submission on the 15th. So that's why by our next meeting on the 22nd, we should have a firm number.
okay. Are people amenable to that approach?
Sure. And like I said earlier, I mean, look, if there is money left over in that pot, then I think this is a great expenditure. If there's not, or if it's getting tight, then this needs to fall to the bottom of the list. So
Yeah, but let's take advantage of it if we can.
Yep.
And if it makes sense, yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Well,
Well, I
and
think we have a good approach on this. John, did you want to add something?
I was going to say, but whatever you do, it would be preparation for a warrant article. If you were going to try a warrant article again for it, you'd have the data.
Yeah,
Yep.
then we'd have, we'd be ahead of the curve on that.
I think if we had the data and we pushed out the knowledge for other people, not just, you know, people were informed, because some thought we were trying to open up a preschool again. I mean,
Yeah, you need to sell what you're going to use it for and convince people that that's what you're
Yeah.
doing.
We also have the rec center up in, not the, at the community center up in the Narrows being hardly ever used, which is a building ready to go, so.
Yeah.
Put money in,
that building was getting used a lot. I recently looked at the calendar. I was in there with Mr. Bailey, and it was being used a surprising amount.
Okay, well, we have a lot to discuss. And I think, you know, to the point that we want to have the information, let's see what John and the building inspector can pull together. Maybe give us some insight and guidance on all those issues that we talked about, the lead paint, the insulation, and maybe even have the building inspector review the quote and see how that squares up with what he would do with the building, just to make sure we're not missing anything.
It's a great idea.
is that you email on a, I mean, is that quote on email, Matt, if I can send it to me sometime?
I'm sure I can find it somewhere to
No,
send to
in
everybody.
the next couple of days, a week, whatever, no, I appreciate it, thank you.
Yeah.
But even bigger than lead, was there asbestos in the tiles? What is the floor made out of?
the floor isn't it carpet, I think.
Yeah, but what's under the carpet?
I think it was plywood.
Okay, that's another question.
Yeah.
Let's have Scott just take a look. I mean, he's knowledgeable and he can sort of help us sort this out with his expertise. And if we could do that in prep for the next meeting, that'd be great. Okay, I'd like to move on to, well, first off, Matt, thank you for leading the discussion on that. I appreciate that. I'd like to move on to new business, but I think I need a 5-minute, well, 3-minute break. So 3-minute recess. Please come back in 3 minutes.
Oh my God. Hey, John,
Hey,
did you guys already go over everything we discussed earlier?
actually, a couple of things coming up for you here when we get back, which would include that signage out at the transfer station for plastic, that that question, and the can't read. Oh, yeah, that's the only one left. I think under public works items. Are they all done backing the roads?
Yes. Yep. All the roads are done now.
Okay.
I just got they just emailed me the final invoice today for to finish paying for the shoulder gravel.
Okay. We haven't paid R&D yet, have we?
I submitted the invoice last week to be actually was in your inbox for your approval and then to be sent to the selectmen to be paid out of the warrant article.
Okay.
So you should be able to find it in your inbox, I believe. The little not your inbox, but your brown the brown cubby there at the
Yeah,
town hall.
yeah. I know which one you mean for brown cubby. Okay. Oh, you saw that note about the 3 pine trees. I don't know if Eversource would take one of them down or not because the wires are rubbing against it. But Savannah and I were outside today and noticed one of the former selectmen pointed it out. Actually, there are 2 dead pines that are really tall, right up tight to the tree with all the wires that come into the building. And then
Yep.
another tree where the wires are rubbing against. I think you're going to need a crane to pull it out from behind. It's not going to be an easy takedown.
Okay, I can address that tomorrow. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
So Macy, get out. Take her out. So
Give Tim a minute to come back.
yeah, this house hunting process is not fun.
Hmm.
I have 30 days and I'm homeless.
Ooh. Ooh.
I got plenty
Yeah.
of room in the barn. Tons of room.
Wow.
But you got to chase mice if you're going to live in there.
I have no problem. I have my trapping license.
Takes a lot of mice to make a coat.
Oh my God.
How big a house do you need? How many bedrooms?
At least 3.
Oh,
So, but yeah, we're looking everywhere. It is a mess. So our landlord that we have now put our house on the market, and since then we've had 15 showings.
I thought I saw the sign there. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of unforeseen.
I think
Okay.
the people across the street from me are moving.
Oh, what's her name's?
Yeah, because the little boy said, "Mrs. Boudreaux, I'm going to a new school." Oh,
Okay, well,
I
you can-
want you to know, Hal, I just submitted my questions.
Okay,
I
great.
guess Tim hasn't done it.
Okay.
Yeah, the comments on the chair, I got them and I thanked her for them. So
Thank you.
pressure's on you, Tim.
Yeah.
Ain't gonna happen.
If you want to, fine. If you don't, that's fine too. Okay, we're going to start with the new business, which is first off, the public access agreement authorization. John, do you want to explain?
Okay. As part of the town's participation in the Area Lakes Region Public Access for Television Agreement, there is an annual agreement that gets renewed. The town has been involved in this. They wrote the letter originally in April, actually, and they wanted the dues back by July 1st. But they ran 23 different selectmen's meetings, an average of 10 times each, 21 school board meetings, 44 meetings that ran 178 times, 21 planning boards that ran 242 times, 12 budget meetings that ran 103 times, and 8 ZBA meetings that ran 71. So it's a way of the video, which is recorded here, being publicized and made available over cable TV.
But didn't
so-
the public say that they said they were repeating the same ones over and over from like
Yeah, well,
February or something?
Yeah, that's what I said. They have 23 selectmen's meeting. They average 10 showings per meeting. So people could watch it at a different time.
They can pick whichever
No,
ones.
because of COVID, they kept on playing February,
Oh.
February.
Because we haven't had a new
in
meeting.
April, February, in May, February. Yeah.
Oh, in other words, they haven't published. Oh, because they must not be picking up from the YouTube. They must
No.
be.
Right.
No. The YouTube stuff is separate. And that's part of the reason why me and Paul talked about getting that, the screen and everything working again, because when we move back in there, we want that running. And, like when we said, maybe when we do the BudFin meeting or when the safety complex folks meet, we can run that and then there will be new meetings. So I guess the question is, John, is there anything that we can edit or do we just need to sign and move forward on this?
Well, if you're going to pay the dues and remain a member, there's an agreement. If you wanted to change the agreement, it looks like a fairly straightforward agreement. I don't see that there's a lot in there. But I don't, if you're not receiving satisfactory service, I suppose that becomes a question. I don't know why they can't pull the video that gets recorded to YouTube and replay that, because that's how they did it in Tamworth. They took the YouTube video file and they then posted it and ran it through their cable TV. But
maybe that's okay. Well, first off, let's get Pam's question answered first, and then we'll move on to other points. Pam, go ahead, please.
All right, I've got a couple questions on the contract. Section 3.1.1. They say that according to their records, 875 total subscribers, but they don't give us a date on that. Many people are stepping away from cable television and strictly going online. So I'm looking at what is our viewership, our actual viewership, and that 875 number is not dated. So we don't know when that 875 count. They might have taken it from the previous contract and just rolled it over. So since we're paying per subscription, per cable subscription, at what, $675 a piece for 875 supposed subscriptions, I want to know that date on when that figure comes from. Also, I'm wondering, what do we get the bigger bang for the buck on with our YouTube viewership, which is instantaneous, and plus people have the option of going to the menu and picking which meeting they want to watch at the time they want to watch it. Whereas on this public access, they can only see whatever is being broadcast. And I would think that would be frustrating for people that want to watch a particular meeting from a certain date. So YouTube affords us that ability to do that. I'm just looking at this Northwood Channel 25 live stream and 26 airtime. I don't have cable, never have, and I've never heard of this station. So I'm just wondering, as far as townwide coverage, is this a good investment? I mean, I know it's like, what, $5,000, almost $6,000. Are we getting $6,000 worth? Whereas YouTube is certainly covering us.
Right, because that could be a newsletter.
Thank you, Beth.
Oh,
Okay, so I think Pam raised some good points. John, I think maybe you're gonna have to dig for some more information. The one thing, Pam, that I will mention is that when we were meeting in the main hall, we were set up to do that. I don't know what we have to do, and John would have to investigate what we have to do to convert that process to the YouTube process. So that would be one of the considerations that we'd have to ask him to look into if we drop the access like they're describing here. So
I'd like
Matt,
to hear from
did you want to say something?
community input.
Oops.
I was going to say community input would be nice too.
I think you raise a good point in terms of, it certainly helps the people with cable TV, but if folks that don't have cable, then yeah. Now I understood that there was a way to go on their website and get those, but I don't know that for a fact. So let's let Matt talk and then Beth.
So I just want to confirm this would be paid out of the Cable Expendable Trust, right?
I believe it would, yes.
Yes.
So, whereas, again, getting back to that discussion of when the town has their say on a warrant article, and our article to change what we were doing with that trust failed, I'm wondering if we need to just sort of bite the bullet on this one this year. Is this a one-year contract? I didn't see.
I think so, yes.
If this is a one-year contract, we might need to bite the bullet on this one. And then down the road, if we can get voters to understand why we're trying to expand the use of those funds, maybe it's time to end this agreement or substantially change this agreement. But I feel like we're kind of our hands are a little bit tied at this point.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. Beth, you want to say something?
It does say under Article 2, the agreement expires June 30th, 2021.
Yeah.
I just think for the 875 subscribers, I don't even think that's a real number right now. That's like what, 1/20th? 20% of the households in town.
There's order of magnitude 2,500 residences.
But that's
I don't
probably
think a
dwelling
third of the
units,
people
not
have
residents.
MetroCast cable.
No, that'd be each hookup. I'm assuming.
I'm assuming that's per house.
So
Yeah.
that might be like internet. Like I have them for internet, but I don't have them for cable. So that number might not even be a real number of actually people watching the shows.
I think Pam's point is let's find out what the real number is and what it means and when it was
Right.
dated and
I
stuff.
think people that actually have cable. I don't want to know the number of people that have their service total. I want the cable number, not internet number.
Cable TV is what you're saying. Cable TV,
Right.
correct?
Because I think that's really our only choice for internet service, right?
Yep.
Not quite, but
And it's
for
so
a lot
great
of
because
people.
look at it, PM keeps on going
Fair
up.
point. Or consolidated.
Yeah,
There
and
are
there's
other
First Light
internet-
along 4.
Okay, so hold on. So, John, you're going to get some more information. I'll make that a
Yes.
note as,
And put that back on for 3 weeks from now.
yeah, so what's your list up to? 42, 43? Sorry.
You can have a couple extra hours.
Yeah.
Just for the record, I sent my stuff in, so I'm covered, Beth. I'm not gonna be the lone one out.
Yep, I just heard it ding.
Okay,
Peer pressure, Tim.
okay. Pam, thanks for
Modem and my
bringing
ice
up,
cream melted, so it ain't good.
Pam, thanks for bringing up those points. I think we'll get the information and see if we can wrap this up next week. And Matt, I think you might also have a good point in terms of what can we actually do or change at this point in time. So we'll have all the information and try to make a deliberation consideration next meeting.
Well, and I think what we decide is something to tell people, the voters in March, that we're in a contract that expires, in June. So,
Right.
Yeah,
I think the timing is probably just about right. And as John or somebody else mentioned, let's make sure everybody understands the issues, the constraints and all that and publicize it.
thank you.
I thought that was good. Okay, I'm going to move on next to public works items requiring BOS attention. John, I think you covered most of it without Chris. The only one was the one that you mentioned, I believe, just prior to our coming back here was the plastics recycling. Do you want to speak to that, or does Chris want to speak to that?
I think Chris on the signage, I believe, Chris, what you had indicated were those signs were correct for what we're collecting. But if you could speak to that issue.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So prior to me coming on, when we had the plastic recycling program already established, plastics 1 through 7 were the ones being recycled. Plastics 3, 4, and 5 are not being put inside of that. So that's basically like your gas cans, your large heavy totes, things like that, like real brittle plastics, big lawn toys, things like that. Those were never being put into the plastics recycling in the first place. So we've been actually doing the recycling that Waste Management is requiring now, even beforehand.
So we delayed starting this so we could inform the public to avoid contamination. Was that necessary?
Looking back at it now, I mean, delaying it for a month, no, it really wasn't. Knowing what we're recycling now and after talking with NRRA and finding out exactly what was involved in what we were recycling in the first place. I wish I would have had that information when I came prior to the board about the contract in the first place, but unfortunately I didn't.
But isn't
Okay.
it 1, 2,
So,
5, and 7?
What questions?
I think Pam had something.
Yeah, go ahead, Pam.
Yeah, the new contract was explicit on 1, 2, 5, and 7.
Yep.
So I'm just wondering, if it to have a sign that just says 1, 2, 5, or 7, period.
Like Kristen said, 1 through 7, but not 3, 4, and 5.
Correct.
Okay.
But yeah, I thought the contract was 1, 2, 5, 7.
I think it is. I think you're right, Pam.
Okay, so the question I think Pam is asking is, do we think it's appropriate to explicitly state that just to be sure we're not going to have any problems?
Yeah, no, I can definitely put a sign up tomorrow with that. That's not an issue. I mean, the dump is open tomorrow, so.
I mean, I know I do look. I look to see what the number is and make sure that I'm 1, 2, 5, or 7. But I don't think it hurts to have that sign up.
No.
That way, if somebody is trying to dump, you got proof. Hey, right there, 1, 2, 5, or 7.
Right.
Okay.
No, I can agree with that. And like I said, we've already been recycling that way in the first place, because we never, unfortunately, the only reason we never recycled the heavy plastics is because of the age of our equipment and the amount of strain that it was putting on it. So that's why we chose to take the larger plastics out, you know, children's toys, totes, gas cans, things like that, and put them into furniture and demo, because it was too much of a strain on our equipment in the first place. So that's why we stayed on.
Okay, so it looks like Beth and then Matt had questions. Go ahead, Beth.
I appreciate you, I mean, you know, even if it's a piece of cardboard or something, putting up a sign, but do we have money to actually get nice signs so it looks less dumpy?
Yeah, no, not like our high street sign.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Actually, through NRRA, we have so much money allotted to us every year for signage. So I can contact them tomorrow and have them produce a sign for me. That'd be fine.
Okay,
We talked about this about a month or two ago. So how come the signs haven't been updated yet?
So the plastic signs are actually, it says plastics recycling with cardboard, and the numbers 1, 2, 5. So, and that's the way everybody was taught, you know, 2 or 3 years ago when this went in. And then Jimmy and Mike and Timmy, they play close watch on that to actually make sure that there's no bulky plastic going in there in the first place. So.
Okay, so I'm just going to paraphrase, but it sounds like we might not have explicitly stated that certain plastics shouldn't go in there, but because we've excluded because of size or other considerations, we actually have been meeting all the requirements. Is that
correct?
Okay.
Yes, correct.
Okay, Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, I was basically just going to say the same thing that Beth did. I think we need to get some decent signage in there with exactly what numbers can go in, and then just one that says, you know, when in doubt, throw it out, and cut down on our likelihood of over contamination.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I guess the real question in my mind is there any risk associated with continuing with the program now without the explicit signage, or do we want to hold off? Because what I'm hearing is we could go right now with that program, and the risk of contamination sounds like it's relatively low. Beth.
No, Chris said he was going to make up a sign tomorrow, a temporary sign. He just said that.
Oh, I see. So you're saying if we have the temporary sign, even though it might not be to your liking.
Presentation's everything.
Yes, I'm with you on that. But you're saying, okay, we can go with a less than optimum sign, but we want to get going.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other comments or questions? Okay, if not, then I think, Chris, do you have any questions of us?
No, just getting back to the whole discussion in the first place, Matt had brought up, you know, about the overages and stuff and how much it's, you know, $250 per ton. That was a big concern to me, you know, finding out after reading the full contract over again. And I talked to Pete LaChapelle from Waste Management, and it's, so the total contamination is not the whole load. It's just the amount of product that's pulled out. And we're allowed, I believe it's up to 5% anyways beforehand. So
okay,
big sigh of relief.
So that's a clarification that makes me breathe a little bit easier, because I was thinking, okay, we send 7 tons in there and we're going to get charged $250 a ton for 7 tons. What you're saying is if we are at 6%, which is 1% over, we're going to get charged 1% of 7 tons. So a nominal amount, basically. Correct. Okay. I understand now and I feel a little bit better.
Yes.
Okay. John, do you want to make a point?
Question regarding Chris. And we indicated we're going to return to the HVAC system after non-public. Do you want Chris to join us at that point?
Well, let's ask the question a different way. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, what does the board want to do? my thinking is if we have technical questions, let's ask them of him now, but Chris, are you going to be around in probably another, let's see.
10 minutes.
20 Well, I was going to say 15, but okay, we can go quicker. You know what? Let's just be, but then that's till we get to non-public. Like, how does the board want to handle it? Should we have him wait?
If
Any
we
of your-
need more technical.
Any of your
if we
questions or
need more
comments?
technical-
We could call him if.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, stay on call if you would, please, Chris, just in case. Okay, so we're going to move on then to the health officer job description. So John, I think you sent out the job description, which was really the building inspector / health officer. Is that correct?
Yes. And what I would suggest what my plan is to edit it for the next meeting. And if you notice under essential duties, there's a section for code enforcement, a section for health. So I'll just drop the whole code enforcement section. I'll drop in the general summary, the code officer piece of it. But I think I would, in the knowledges and stuff, you would change, so you'd take out the zoning, but you'd leave in the health. And that would be my plan for how to get to a draft for the health officer, unless somebody has another idea.
Other suggestions?
that's good.
I
Yeah.
think, isn't it like a $7,000 a year stipend position, or not stipend, but like up to $7,000?
Yeah, there's 7,000, well, just under 7,000 in the budget.
Yeah, so I think that's the other point, either tonight or maybe once we have the job description, we probably need to think about what the hourly pay rate is going to be set at, or how we set that, what pay and grade. Personally, I think we'd be better off waiting till next week or next meeting when we have the job description itself. But if people want to talk about that now, please speak up.
Are other towns, are they usually combined, or do we combine because we had someone that was doing both jobs?
I find it's usually combined with a code enforcement officer or building inspector.
So should we just keep it that way then?
I think, okay, I'm trying to recollect. I think the reason we were going to separate them out in part was because we weren't certain about the previous health officer's status. And Scott is right now, we filed the paperwork to make him deputy. So to your point, Beth, we're already halfway there. And if we wanted to appoint him as the health officer itself.
Well, I would say if the person that was the health officer is not getting back to us, that person probably is not.
Enough's enough.
Yeah, I think we're done. Yeah, so.
I know several people have, Mark did, John did, I did.
Yeah. Okay, Matt, do you want to speak to this, please?
Yeah. So, to me, I guess it makes sense to have them combined, but at this moment in time for us where we're at, and our building inspector is still trying to dig out of a substantial pile of work, I think it makes sense for us to split this position. If we want to recombine it down the road, that's our prerogative. But for now, and especially and we've actually had a couple of folks interested in the position.
Right.
I think it makes a lot of sense to split it out and just let the building inspector do his job and dig out of that hole. And keep this separate.
So should we let the building inspector be the health inspector and then get another deputy? And then
clarify, Matt. Which are you saying? Are you saying keep him as deputy, keep Scott as deputy?
I would say let's keep Scott as the deputy and hire a health officer.
Yeah. I'm just going to speak up here because, actually, given COVID-19 and all the enhanced work or extra work that might be coming part of that, and who knows what we're going to face in the future. Maybe it drops off, but we got a bunch of stuff that potentially they have to deal with. And I like Matt's point that we don't want the building inspector to to lose focus on his primary role. Whereas I think we're fast getting out of the hole that we were in, but we don't want to fall back in again. So I think that's a very
The
good point.
hole, literally, the septic hole, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. Okay, so I guess then it makes sense, looking around the table here, I guess it makes sense to have John go to the effort of separating them out. Is that the consensus?
Is this
Yeah.
number 40?
Pardon?
17.
17?
Oh, for this meeting, but yeah, the ones from last meeting still hold.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, okay, good recommendation, John. Anything else on that before we move on?
No,
Okay, then I'm going to move on to the process for for posting town employment opportunities. John, do you want to speak to that, given what we found in the employee handbook?
Basically, there's no period during which an internal candidate is given the only consideration. The way the policy talks about the 10 days having the position open for both external and internal candidates, the board could then, from those candidates, prioritize the internal candidate, but there's no process that relates to posting that differentiates between internal and external.
Okay, so that's the situation. I think for now, unless the board has further discussion on that, I'm going to recommend that you think about that. And if there is something that you'd like to consider in terms of changing that, then when I send out the notice as far as the proposed agenda, then please add it as one of your comments back, and we'll do so, and we'll bring it back up for discussion. So that's what I'm offering, but does anybody want to make any points on this prior to that?
no.
Just real briefly, that if we ever were in a position where we really had somebody that we knew we wanted to slide from one position to another, either a lateral move or a small upward move, we can, we've still got a lot of flexibility in terms of where we choose to post the position. That's not necessarily listed in the policy, is it?
I don't think so, but also, Matt, to your point, in some cases, those might just be considered promotions.
Correct. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
We're talking about our job openings.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that, there's a couple considerations there. But, all these things, there's obviously a couple different ways to play them. I think if we leave ourselves flexibility, I think that's generally better, but
yeah,
please think about it. And if something comes to mind and we need to discuss it again, we'll do so. Okay, John, let me just check my list here. Oh, I have two other items that, oh no, I have one other item that's a leftover from last week. Matt, you briefly mentioned it. The community center, it sounds, we had asked if you could go down and measure up a little bit, and then similar to the meeting room, if we can, let's set up some guidelines for use of the community hall. So can you fill us in on what you figured out or measured or found
sure.
out?
So I got down there, and actually it happened to be serendipitous timing, because Steve was down there. So Mr. Bailey and I measured out the room, and he had some thoughts on it as well. But the room basically measures 24 by 30 feet without the stage included in that. So it would be pretty easy to do, say, 9 people spaced with 6 foot distance in the main section of that room, and we could add another 2 with the stage probably pretty easily. So my recommendation would be that we set the capacity at 10 or 11 in that room, and then it would be the same up top. So it would be, that we could set, 10 or 11 per floor at any given time.
Okay. And I think the other considerations were that at least for town hall, we said, they have to follow all the guidelines, fill out the forms and all those
Right.
types of things. So I assume you're suggesting we follow those same parameters for this?
I think we need to. The only other thing is, I know that we had voted to add the community center to the rotation for cleaning through our
Yes.
vendor there. I think he's still trying to get his hands on a key. John, do you want me to grease that process a little bit?
Yeah, if you could,
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Bailey comes in every, frequently, but yeah, if you could make sure he gets a key. I think he is aware we want him in the schedule.
He is aware. I actually checked in with Kyle.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, and what would be the criteria for when it needs to be cleaned? Is it like a certain number of days or a certain number of meetings or what?
It's probably,
I thought he was going to do it once a week.
That's what I thought we said, once a week.
Oh, okay. So period, a fixed period.
Isn't that, Matt, what? you-
That's the way I remember it.
Yeah.
Okay, and I assume like some of the parameters include having the wipes down there and the spray disinfectant and stuff, make sure we have that supplied.
Yeah, we'll have to get some stuff down there. I don't know what's in there right now in terms of that stuff.
It's
Okay,
a
well,
cleaning closet, but I
Yep.
don't know what's inside there.
yeah. Yeah, and that might be different than what we want to have out. Like when you go into the main meeting hall down at Town Hall, the wipes are there, the masks are there, the forms to fill out, they're all there, they're obvious, including, being able to, a place to put the forms.
Right.
Because let's face it, if somebody has an infection and we need to go back to those, we need to be able to pick them up and, go let people
Trace.
know.
Contact tracing.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess just, part of this, I hate to add it to your list, but if you can pass it on to somebody else, John, we got to make sure all that stuff's there and in place.
I think our main priority is to clean up the town hall and get us back in the town hall instead of worrying about these other buildings in town. We need to get back to our meetings in the town hall and show the people that enough's enough.
Okay.
Well, we built
So
the wall.
let's finish this discussion, and then if you want to bring that up as an additional item, Tim, we'll do so. So let's just wrap up the community center. Is there anything else related to the community center, or are we ready for a motion in terms of setting the number of people? Matt?
So I just want to add one more quick thing. So Mr. Bailey and I had a nice long chat while I was there that day. I do think it would be a good idea for us to maybe invite him into a meeting in the future and talk about some of the systems that are in place in terms of how that building gets reserved and utilized by the community and by different committees. He has dumped his heart and soul into that building, and there's no doubt. And but I do think there's an opportunity for taking a fresh look at the way that process works and take some of that off of his shoulder.
Okay, I put that on the list. We'll figure out where to get that on the meeting schedule.
Thanks.
Okay, then I think we're at the point where maybe a motion to set the number of people that can meet on each floor. Does anybody want to make a motion? Beth?
Will we be able to get like a box together with the cleaning supplies and masks and papers before we actually let people start using it then?
It won't take long to put those together.
Thank you.
The thermometer is the only issue. I don't know if we've got a thermometer for them down there, but we can just insist they take their temperature before they come.
Yeah.
That's what the form says, just take it before you come.
Yep.
And let people know that.
I think the chances of losing a thermometer down there where we're less
Yeah.
Yep.
present would probably be that they're going to have to take their own temperature and be on the honor system.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
So,
reasonable. I think that's reasonable.
Yep.
All right. So I make a motion to set it at 11 people
Per floor.
Beth?
per floor.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'll open it up for discussion. Tim, go ahead.
how many people are we actually going to fit on that stage with all the file cabinets there? And I mean, we had I haven't been to many of the VFW meetings lately because our meetings run there. But I mean, there's a lot of, I don't know, maybe Mr. Bailey, we could go through that. What's in this file? You know, I know a lot of the stuff belongs to VFW, little portions of that file cabinet, but I mean, so that might
So
determine
Matt, you
the
thought 2
number.
people on the stage, right?
Right. If we can get 9 down on the main section of the floor and then squeeze 2 in up on the stage, I think there's probably room for that. You know, and it's going to be a chair, right? So that's going to be part of the issue is that, you know, if everybody needs table space, that changes the format. So we'll just have to, you know, part of this is going to be the understanding that whoever is running that meeting or whoever that committee chair is in charge of maintaining appropriate distance and forcing masks and all that stuff. So
Could we ask the VFW to kind of scooch their stuff against the wall then? I mean, how much stuff is there, Tim?
I mean, it's usually just in one file cabinet, you know, so I don't know what else is in that file cabinet, you know, a lot of.
There's a piano up there. There's like
yeah.
the ballot stuff. I mean, there is some
There's
stuff.
other stuff. There's other stuff.
They said 9 to 11. Let's just say 10. And we all can spread out.
Are you willing to change your motion, Beth?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is for 10 people at the community center per floor. Do I have a second on that? Tim, you're willing to change your second then also. Okay, further discussion.
I think just pending that they the groups agree to follow the guidelines that we set.
And we ask that the chair or the leader do that. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none. Pam, how do you vote?
Don't pick her first. She's busy.
Yes.
Well, I got to go by my little chart here. Matt,
yes.
Beth.
Yes.
Get
And
ready
Tim.
for school tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not on the agenda, but I think Tim wants to talk about our meetings. Is that correct, Tim? Our meeting venue?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody object to having that as an item tonight?
Well, we can just talk about it next meeting. It doesn't matter. So it might as well get into non-public.
I'll give Tim 5 minutes.
I would just like to have the meetings, you know, the 6 or 7 of us in the big room. So instead of, you know, the computer stuff. So that's just my opinion.
Okay.
Meeting last week went well. Hal, I mean, I got there early. I wiped down all the tables. I wiped down all the chair armrests. I did that, cleaned the bathroom real quick, you know, the faucets and stuff, doorknobs. I did again after, I mean, it took 10 minutes.
And preemptively, I've talked to Paul about getting the Lakes Region Access reworking. It just turned out to be some computer monitor issues and stuff like that. The fallback would be that we use Zoom and that, for example, I run the meeting through Zoom and then we have the wide angle camera running off of my computer. So certainly I think we could put that into place, but it's really up to the board. So let's open it up for short discussion, and then if we can come to a conclusion, fine. If we can't, we're going to revisit it at our next meeting. So Pam, do you want to raise some points?
Yeah. Let me see. Quick question on the Lakes region. Is that something that people watch during the meeting, like they're watching Zoom right now?
Yes.
Or is that broadcast later? So that's one question. The other question is that with me, I'll be back in school with students that are of a higher age. So my question would be, and this is like after the 14th, I might want to continue to be remote in that by nature of what we're going into, and we don't know what's going to happen. I might be a person that you wouldn't want to have in the room.
Okay.
That would be Matt and myself as well. We're full of germs.
Right. I mean, I was surrounded by a bunch of 20-year-olds making bad decisions today. So
Hey, my grandson started, I got 2 grandsons down there, so, you know.
I know I saw him. He's one of them. There you go.
Okay. You know what? I think we got some good points out. I'm going to put this as a specific item on the agenda for the 22nd. I'm going to ask you to gather your pros and cons so we can have a more enlightened discussion. Beth, go ahead.
I think though, if someone doesn't feel comfortable, they still should have the ability to do it via Zoom.
Yes, well, that's part of the reason why I mentioned the Zoom and the wide angle, and maybe to either, I forget whose point, maybe it was Pam's. If there's not as many people on cable TV as there are on have access to YouTube, maybe we should be in that mode anyway. So
Is the cable TV even live though? I mean, I haven't had cable for years. So I thought it wasn't live. I thought it was like on Friday night or something.
no, that was one of the points. We had to wait. They would start the thing, and then we had to wait a couple of minutes till it all synced in. But then once it started, it was essentially live with about a 5-second or 10-second delay.
I
That
thought
was through live stream.
That was live stream. That wasn't.
Right.
That's what I'm talking
That
about.
wasn't the,
That wasn't Metrocast or whatever. Whatever, Atlantic Broadband.
that was on the web.
No, it wasn't broadband. It was
was on
the
the web.
cable access.
So
I
when
don't think
Gary
so.
taped the meetings, it went right out live?
No, Gary wasn't taping the meetings. That was part of why we didn't have to have Gary anymore. We just turned on the computer and it was the same as before.
My understanding is that it was streamed live on live stream, and then Lakes Region was pulling it off of live stream to then replay on cable.
Oh, look at this. Susan is here nodding her head, yes. So,
What did she
okay.
say?
So maybe I'm using the wrong terminology, but one way or the other, it was live. And that's one option. And then the other option is the Zoom with the camera, the wide angle camera, which Paul and I tried it a little bit.
Now, how wide is this wide angle camera?
It's pretty wide. It's pretty wide. But we got everybody, when we tested it, we could see everybody
The whole
pretty much
table?
around the table, with perhaps the exception of the person behind the camera. So we can take turns doing that or something like that.
How we worked it in Tamworth, where the selectmen were live and it was going out over Zoom, is I managed the computer and I would just turn the camera manually. Now, it was often pointed towards somebody who wasn't talking, but during the course of it, if we had somebody come in, the room was limited to 10. So only 2 people could be in there that weren't either the cameraman, because they were also putting it out live on cable. The minute taker, myself, the 5 select people, and then 2 or 3 citizens could come in from the hall, and they would wait out in the hall if they were more than 10. So that's probably how it would work.
John, I think the other thing that you mentioned to me was that you had a high quality, true speaker phone there for calls coming in. Is that correct?
Yes, we've got to get it. And Atlantic Broadband was supposed to get one in connection with our system, but I could just order the same one we had in Tamworth. As long as it's a voice over IP, it should work fine in the system.
Okay, I think that would be the other thing that would constrain us, because if somebody does call in or needs to call in and we can't really hear on the phone, I think that could be an issue.
Yeah, what we did there is one of the Zoom calls was this phone itself. So the phone was actually the Zoom.
So then we could turn off all the other mics and.
The computer.
Yeah, okay, okay. So it sounds like we have some good options, some good ideas. Are people comfortable that we work this and then try to make a decision on the 22nd? Yeah, I'm seeing some nods here. Okay, I'll put it on the agenda.
I think it's just a way to show the town that we're trying to get as normal as we can.
Yeah, well, like you said, Beth, I've been in there for BudFin meetings. You were in there for the safety facility strategy meeting. People are comfortable doing it. Now, I will say that on the strategy meeting, everybody kept their masks on.
Yeah.
I don't remember anybody.
That was the rule.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, when we have,
I think we will have to wear a mask if
Yeah.
you're in that room.
yeah. Yeah, when there's more people, like when we have the BudFin meeting, like when there's only four people there, we're more than 6 feet apart, we don't wear masks.
Right, but if you're putting 8 or 10 people.
Yeah, then you got to, you can't
because you
be
get
far enough
aerosol
away.
dispersion, not just droplets.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna add that as an item. So that's BOS meeting venue. Thank you for bringing that up, Tim. I thought that was a good discussion. Okay, are we ready then to move on to opportunities?
That
Which
sounds
is-
exciting.
Well, it's the playground funds. John, I still don't quite grasp this public notice, not public notice, et cetera, et cetera. Can you go through what we got to do to get the money?
You have to post a public hearing in the newspaper for a week if you had it tonight. If you have it on the 22nd, because the rules change between now and then, you don't have to have it in the newspaper. So at the 22nd, we'll be accepting both the election to accept and expend and the playground to accept and expend the funds itself.
But we will be asking for public input, right?
Yes, it's a public
Okay,
hearing.
so the public needs to know we're going to be asking for input, whether to take some federal money for playground, and that it's going to be a public hearing, correct, John?
And I would suggest those come at the beginning of the meeting so that if somebody tunes in, they'll know at 6 o'clock.
Or, yeah, or
Right
very
after
close
the
to.
citizens Forum,
Yeah.
if you want, you go from that to the public hearing.
Okay, so do we need to put it on the website so people know there's a public hearing?
Oh, yeah, yes. You
Okay, you'll take care of all of that then?
Right.
Okay, does anybody have any questions about what we're doing on that? Or why? I think I understand it now. Okay,
An opportunity, Hal.
yeah, it is. That's $88,000 opportunity.
That would have been a good thing to put in the newsletter too, but you can't.
Yes, it would.
I think let's put an ad in the Sun Valley Sun. I put one in last week. I haven't seen it yet.
You probably didn't get it in by the deadline.
Are you running for something?
Okay, non-public, John, help me out, A or C?
A, B, and C.
A, B, whoa, I don't have that many items on my topic list.
I have 3 because I moved
Okay.
one from my report down to non-public once I read the file.
Okay, so John wants to go into non-public for parts A, B, and C. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
So,
And a second?
so move, if we only take a 2-minute bio break in between real quick.
Okay, so we're going to vote to go into non-public, take a bio break, and then get into the topics. Matt, how do you vote?
Wait. So I'm looking at Paul. He looks tired. Do we need Paul and Susan still?
Well,
We'll need Susan. We'll need Susan when we come back out to.
I'm
make
running a
everything live because
simultaneous
we're gonna-
meeting right now.
We're gonna, what'd you say, Susan?
I'm doing conservation on another computer right now, so I'm going to be here.
She's going to be there.
Yeah, but the reason we need her is we've already told the public we're gonna be revisiting the table.
Oh, okay.
subject of,
Yeah.
So let me,
And how about Paul?
oh, I'll wait
Paul
till you
can
guys.
go. Thank you, Paul.
All right.
Uh-huh.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Paul. Yeah, I got
Thanks,
you,
Paul.
Paul.
Don't forget to post the expenditures.
Will do.
Okay, so Susan will ping you or whatever the
Well,
word. Yeah, we'll let you know.
You need to vote and then I'll give
Yeah,
it to Matt.
yep. And after we vote, then we're going to take a bio break and then come back for John's 3 items. So Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
and Pam.
Yes.
I don't anticipate this being a long meeting. Did you vote, Hal?
Yes, I vote yes also.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman,
Yes,
on, when we, on our next meeting, when we bring up the public comments and stuff for the playground money, how
yes.
is the public gonna chime in?
We'll
Chat.
have to use the conference call or something. That's a good point.
So that's something to think about.
Yeah, John?
I would
No.
suggest you open the Zoom up to everybody and see how many people you can get on without
Yeah,
crashing.
Yep.
yeah, and if we have trouble, we might have to limit some people and ask them to sequence in or something.
Well,
Well, we can
or
mute
no
people.
video.
yeah, we can. mute
Oh,
everybody.
Mute everybody.
right. Yeah, we'll do, yeah, okay.
Right, just
I'm glad
something
you
that-
brought that up. That was excellent point. Yeah, otherwise we'd be fumbling
But we'll
around the night of the
add
meeting.
Zoom for them to be able to come in on the public hearing.
Yep,
All
nope,
right, so
Good.
we all voted for non-public?
yep. And then you said you want to recess, so we'll take a 2-minute recess
Pam's
this
ready to
time.
go. Pam's leaving.
Yeah, okay.